Kotzman, how you doing here this morning?
I'm very well. How are you, sir?
I'm very, very good. Look, first of all, I can't thank you enough for coming here. Tim Kotzman, organizer of the Bitcoin Treasuries Unconference. Did I get that right?
You got it right. You can call it whatever you want. Just don't call it a conference.
Okay, we will not call it a conference. It'll be the Unconference. Tim, it's great to have you here. Look, you are here with a group of active traders every single day. We show up and we try to make sense of all of the different news that's going on there. Well, it's a big news about a company like Apple, or whether it's news about companies that are adding Bitcoin to their treasury strategy. And I'm hoping that I can ask you some questions about that here. Can we start by talking about the conference? Can you tell me a little bit about yourself to start us off?
Sure. Unbelievably, less than a year ago, I started the Bitcoin Treasuries podcast to try to platform in one place everything that's going on with the corporate adoption story. That turned into a digital conference that was maybe 14 hours long, and then a 21-hour digital conference where we interviewed 42 people back to back to back to back. We don't have time for all the backs. And and now Ed, Juline, and I are organizing the Unconference. It'll be our first in-person conference. It'll be kicked off with a keynote from Michael Saylor, and then instead of just kind of boring panels where everyone's falling asleep and just drinking as much coffee as they can, we'll still have coffee, but it'll be more of a town hall Q&A, very interactive format. And we're excited to bring that to New York next Wednesday, September 17th. Doors open at 8 a.m.
Okay, that sounds awesome. Let's actually bring Ed on here. Ed, good morning. How are you doing here today?
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Yeah, fighting with the computer on a Monday morning seems to be a ritual, huh?
Yeah, that's par for the course around these parts. We deal with technology issues on a regular basis here, but I just want to give you an opportunity as well. I just had Tim telling us a little bit about the conference. Can you tell us a little bit more about the conference, providing your camera and microphone?
Yeah, providing my camera comes back. Anyways, you can hear me, right?
You can hear you fine. It's like you're in the room with me.
Yeah, sorry about that. Let's see. Oh, I got to go back over here to this camera. There we go. Okay. Yeah, so everything Tim said. No, just kidding. Yeah, I was fortunate after a 25-year career in manufacturing to fail miserably at entrepreneurship, which put me in a place where it was like, well, what do I want to do? I don't want to go back manufacturing. That hurts my stomach. And a job with the Bitcoin conference fell out of the sky. And, that event with 30, 40,000 people is just, it's not only an amazing experience, but you get to see how the biggest and best conference in the world is run in the Bitcoin space, right? My job there was enterprise, so I was supposed to bring in, the big banks, the big corporations to say, hey, this is what where the future is, and they weren't ready. They were all saying like, no, the Bitcoin brand is toxic, we can't do that. I had an opportunity to go to Mara to work on a sidechain project that was really exciting, and L2 did that. But then Strategy called and said, hey, we want you to run our conference. Fantastic. The Bitcoin for Corporations conference put on by Strategy, very focused on Saylor and his message and what Strategy is doing. So I had an opportunity to join a Bitcoin treasury company in Mexico. I lived in Mexico 13 years, fluent Spanish. And I couldn't do that while working at Strategy. So I called Tim. I said, hey, what are you up to? He goes, thank God you're available, because I decided to run a conference 6 weeks from now and I need help. So I decided to join Tim on this adventure that we've got with 9 days left. And we had both attended a conference. Did you already tell him about Santa Monica? Okay. So we both attended this conference out in Santa Monica last year, put on by Fred Krueger, called an Unconference, where there was sofa sets, and the only agenda was topics, and there would be a thought leader that would start the conversation. And then people would talk about that topic for an hour, and they'd go, okay, next. And then people would either change sofa sets or stay in that same sofa set, and a new thought leader. And I thought it was going to be a train wreck. I'm like, this won't work. How are you going to do this? People go crazy. But it was mostly people with gray hair and people that had invested for a while, and it went really well. So we decided to create our conference in that same vision of how do we not keep tiring people with presentations and panels, right? Because they're getting old, right? It's the same three people up there agreeing with each other. It's a presentation that just doesn't seem like there was any work that went into it. So what you're going to get through our conference is a town hall type discussion. As I heard Tim, as I joined, It's going to be a situation where we've got people on stage that are thought leaders. We're going to have a topic such as proof of reserves. We'll have a topic such as does the underlying business matter? You can find the agenda on our website. You can find it all over X. And then people will be able to interact through questions, comments, whatever, with those thought leaders on stage.
Okay, first of all, this is
a long answer. Sorry, but
no, it's totally fine, and it's a great long answer. You actually took a couple of the questions that I was going to ask you and answered them without me even having to ask them. You know, a lot of the questions that you just mentioned, these are questions that our group of traders and investors have. Does it matter what the underlying business is? You know, what does all this mean? So it sounds like your unconference, I won't call it a conference, sounds like your unconference is actually set to address those things. Really, really exciting. Let me ask you, can anyone attend this, or is it just for invited individuals?
Go ahead, Tim.
If you can buy a ticket, you can walk through the front door.
So it's basically open to anybody. As long as they want to buy a ticket and go, it's open to them.
Yeah,
Bitcoin Treasuries. It's open to anybody that got in on the first 350, because the fire marshal will shut us down after 350, and I think we're currently at like 315. So there's not a lot of tickets left with 8 days left.
Okay. Awesome. Be sure to check that out. We'll go ahead and throw the link here in the chat for that. Let's talk about the Bitcoin and the treasury companies themselves. I think that's what everyone's waiting for. What are your thoughts on Bitcoin and altcoin treasury strategies? When I say altcoin, I mean things like Ethereum or Solana.
Yeah, I think it comes back to this idea of the pristine asset. You know, in the crypto world, we keep on coming up with these catchphrases, these little cliches, and some of them stick, some of them don't. And that pristine asset one seems to have stuck for quite a while now. And Bitcoin being a pristine asset, and it's really difficult sometimes to get your head around Ethereum or Solana or Fartcoin being pristine assets. And will Ethereum be around for a while? Will Solana be around for a while? Sure. Yeah, they're not going anywhere, right? But I could go back and look at the list of the top 10 on CoinMarketCap just a couple of years ago, and a few of them are gone. And so you just kind of wonder, you know, what could change? Is somebody going to come up with a better Solana or whatever? Mm-hmm. There's not going to be a better Bitcoin. Bitcoin's going to be around forever. Great. But if you're betting your company's future on what I call a crypto company rather than a crypto asset, I think you're putting your company at some kind of existential risk. Much higher returns, probably, much more upside, but definitely risk.
Interesting. So Bitcoin, the safer play there. Tim, how do you see the future for Bitcoin treasuries?
I think we're at this inflection point where you just see this march of adoption, right, from retail to corporate and institutional to nation state, where Bitcoin becomes this global store of value. Some don't currently see it that way because of the volatility. But I have conversations every day with people that want to understand it, people that are in high school or college, people that are retirees, and they have open minds. They want to know what's going on with this technology. They own gold, and they want, even if it's not right for them as a retiree in their eyes, they want to understand it. So I just keep quoting Lynn Alden, nothing stops this train.
Okay, it sounds good. Michael Saylor has been the leader for Bitcoin. Do you think that he's been early? Do you think we're still kind of in the early phase here for Bitcoin? How do you place that when you start thinking about timelines?
I don't know if I struggle with that. The leader for Bitcoin, but you're saying, I guess, on the Bitcoin treasury side.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, Michael Saylor, when people say his name, he is viewed as a Bitcoin leader just in general, more specifically the treasury side.
Yeah, no, I've tried to do this. I've tried to have ChatGPT help me with this. There really aren't a lot of other industries where somebody has such a huge, massive lead. I mean, there was a point at which Google had that, but, you know, it kind of fixed itself. In this case, it's literally impossible for anybody else to catch them. I mean, even if Apple said, we're going to take our trillions of dollars in cash and start, you know, smash buying Bitcoin, the price is going to go up so fast and so hard, they still won't catch them. So it's an interesting dilemma of, does this matter, or did they just get the head start? Good for them. Unclear. You know, the only analogy that I found similar was in the U.S. military, where the U.S. military is so much bigger, so much better, that it gives them this power. And it's like, well, Is Strategy eventually going to be the biggest company in the world, number one on Dow and S&P and everything? And what power does that give them? You don't find Bitcoiners thinking too far into the future sometimes. looking at the current price and maybe a year in the future, but there aren't a lot of thinkers apart from maybe Jeff Booth or Kristen Ragusan who are thinking, what is this going to look like in 30, 40 years? And I don't know if you can. It's very, very challenging. So do they have a leg up, an advantage? Absolutely. What does it mean? No clue.
Okay, that's fair enough. Look, would you advise companies buy Bitcoin or maybe another coin and add it to their treasury as a strategy? Is this something that you'd like to see proliferate, or does it only make sense in certain applications?
Tim?
We've already seen Polkadot and other coins come out and publicly state that they're going to put Bitcoin in their treasury. I think you'll see that continue and accelerate as they realize, hey, this is the pristine collateral. Everything else is a venture project, and it may or may not have value in the short, medium, and long term. I think when you look at bitcointreasuries.net, which is different from bitcointreasuries.media, where you can get your ticket for September 17th, you look at 180 some companies and you'll see people quoting that number, but there's only a few dozen actual strategy type leverage Bitcoin equities. So I think that will continue and proliferate, but I think every company, whether it's 10 basis points or 10% or 100%, can really benefit from having Bitcoin on the balance sheet. And I think as the volatility potentially continues to decelerate, that you'll see the adoption accelerate.
Okay. All right. And then this is probably the biggest question for our group here, specifically for our group. What are the biggest tips or pieces of advice that you can give active traders or investors when they're looking at companies that are adding Bitcoin or some other type of crypto to the treasury? And then I have one follow-up here from the audience about a specific company, if you guys can answer that.
I thought you were going to ask, do the Bears have a chance at the Super Bowl? But
I'm saving up for that. They've got to keep the important questions till the end here, so we'll get that in here at the end.
I've been saying this on podcasts and different forums lately that Jack Dorsey about a year and a half ago maybe he said we don't need freedom of speech. We've already got that. What we need is freedom of algorithm. And whenever somebody asks me, what do you think? What is this one going to do? I just say, well, what is your algorithm telling you? I've come to the point where I just don't trust my algorithm because, my algorithm told me the day before said Travis and Taylor are breaking up. And I said, oh, well, that's not news. And then the next day they're engaged and it's like, yeah, you just can't really trust your algorithm. You have to question it all the time. And so that's the piece of advice is find your sources, figure out what you can trust, ask other people what their algorithm's telling them. I have a whale friend who got in super early, sitting on a massive stack, but he's kind of an Ethereum guy. And I'm a Bitcoin guy. And then he sends me an Ethereum article. I'm like, where did you get this? And then I'll send him a Bitcoin article. He's like, where did you get this? And everybody has their, what's it called? Thesis. And Jeff Walton, or I think it was Jeff, maybe it was Ben, put something on X just yesterday saying, figure out your thesis and stick to it. And your thesis is going to be different than others, and nobody is right yet. So you've got to be able to sleep at night. And if you can sleep with your thesis and where to invest, and you're putting in the time to check your algorithm and make sure that it's giving you the right information, it's about the best you can do right now.
Okay, so due diligence, maybe tune up that algorithm. Tim, how about you? Any pieces of advice or tips for active traders and investors?
I'd say walk before you run. I mean, to understand what is a pipe? What happens when those shares unlock? How do these actual mechanisms work? I mean, I was on the phone yesterday with a very good friend, and he said, I love MicroStrategy, but I'm just going to focus on stacking my own coin for now. I'm just he's very, very active and passionate and enthusiastic. And he's like, with all these preferred products, he's like, it's just over most people's heads. He's like, I see the vision, I see Saylor's vision, but it's something that for most people, this is whoo. And so, even on X, you see people posting like just trying to figure out how many actual shares are on the market. So unless you're going to do a deep dive, I do not recommend YOLOing into most of these things.
Yeah, no, you're saying that this goes over a lot of people's heads. Look, I'm one of those people too. I mean, I'm someone that's bullish on Bitcoin. I think this is here to stay. I actually really like what I'm seeing here. Every time I see Michael Saylor talk, I think this is easily the smartest guy in the room. This is someone that I want to follow as well. But some of this stuff, it just kind of goes right over my head, and it's tough for the individual investor to discern, hey, is this company actually doing the right thing? Is this going to be worth anything down the road? And that actually brings me to my final question here. So this comes from a viewer here. We would not be able to have a show without our viewers, so I think it's important to be able to allow them to ask questions. He wants to say, what does Tim and Ed think of ticker BMNR, Bitmine Immersion? This is one of the, go ahead.
I just saw that and looked it up. I'm not familiar with that. Bitmine is a pioneering digital asset platform dedicated to maximizing ETH per share and advancing the Ethereum ecosystem. Look, I made a lot of money on Ethereum back in the day, and then I kind of started figuring out how Bitcoin's different, and I became what I call a Bitcoin inclusionist, not a Bitcoin maximalist, and said, if you're not doing it on Bitcoin, well then either figure out how to do it on Bitcoin or let's work with Ethereum. I go to ETH Denver, because it's cutting edge technology. There's people doing amazing, fantastic things, but I can't say that I'm an expert specifically on Bitmine Immersion, but with the probably millions of people that are holding Ethereum and the tens of thousands that are working on it, there's some fantastic stuff going over there. So I'm not going to pretend that it's not good stuff. It's just I'm specifically got my bandwidth and my algorithm fine-tuned to Bitcoin.
Yeah, I think the reason that this one's getting brought up, Tom Lee is the chairman over at this company. I believe Tom Lee was actually on CNBC this morning saying that he could see Bitcoin doubling from here by Christmas. So he makes a lot of news in the Bitcoin world, and that's one of the reasons that this stock is highly followed. Tim, any thoughts on that?
The question to ask, Ryan, is because I've met Tom Lee, right? I just saw him in New York about a month ago. His algorithm is different than mine. When I talk to Tom Lee, I'm just like, where are you getting your information? Because I'm saying one thing, he's saying another thing, and it's like, are we both right? Are we both wrong? Or is it two different planets? And these are good questions we need to be asking, and people like you are out there peeling back the layers of the onion.
Does your algorithm also think Bitcoin can go to 1 million or 2 million, or is that just a Tom Lee thing?
Bitcoin will not go to 1 million. Bitcoin will be the same. It's a linear path to how many Bitcoin are produced. The dollar is melting. The dollar is fading away. You just have to go to Buenos Aires or Caracas or Zimbabwe, and it's people there get it. I mean, when Bitcoin hit 100 million pesos, Argentinian pesos per Bitcoin, I said, hey, 1 Satoshi equals 1 peso. And it wasn't 2 months before it was 120 million. And those people get it, right? I always say this, what part of the problem for the adoption of Bitcoin has been that it's really hard to go to Wall Street and say that the sky's falling, because it is not, man. They are eating really good steaks and have nice cars and houses in the Hamptons. So trying to convince them that the sky is falling is tough. Will the dollar have a massive collapse? No. Will things fall apart in the US? No. So it's all your perspective. And will the dollar continue to depreciate so that one day a Bitcoin value is valued at $1 million per Bitcoin? It's inevitable. It's like gravity. It's going to happen. It'll be a Tuesday.
Okay. We'll keep our calendars marked for that. Tim, any thoughts on BMNR or any closing thoughts here from our discussion?
I don't follow it, so I can't speak to it. But if volatility is vitality, when you're speaking about a Bitcoin treasury company, you can just enlarge that, and you're just further out on the risk curve. And that's about the extent of my intelligence on that.
But one other comment I'll throw in: I have created a coupon code Benzinga. So if you go to Bitcoin treasuries.media, if you're thinking about coming, you need to be in this room. So coupon code Benzinga at checkout gives you 21% off.
Okay, absolutely amazing. Tim Kotzman, Ed Juline, did I pronounce it right? Juline?
That's fine.
Juline. Okay, sorry about that. Organizers of the Bitcoin Treasuries Unconference. We won't call it a conference. Bitcoin Treasuries New York City Unconference with Michael Saylor. We did put the link in the chat there. Thank you for creating a coupon code for us as well. I suspect that we're going to check in with you again. Good luck with your conference, and we'll follow up with you next time. All right.
Thank you.
All right.
That is Tim and Ed. Folks, I know we've been on top of these Bitcoin treasury companies. We've been trying to make as much sense of them as we can. Sounds like we're not the only ones. Really good stuff here from our guests. If you're interested in that, please check it out.